In my sophomore year at Dartmouth College, I lived with a suite of rooms with seven guys, seven counting me. Some of us had rooms alone. Most of us had rooms with two people in it. And one suite had three people in it. We all shared the same shower and bathroom. And there was a living room there that we shared together. If there had been TV in those days, we'd have had a TV set in there, but I don't think we'd gotten that far. Anyway, I want to tell the story about the Mike Butler. Somebody came up with a book by Henry Miller called The Rosy Crucifixion, and it was banned in Boston. And I don't know who came up with it, but it turned up there in the suite. And we decided to have a group reading in the evening, and probably on 3 evenings, roughly, we sat and somebody read it out loud. And it was the sexiest thing that we'd encountered at the time. I remember one passage that sticks out in my memory that said that Henry Miller's female lover jumped in the back seat and we fell into a tight fuck. And we were like, whoa, this is racy stuff. And there was a lot of foreplay and so on described in this book. Well, it caused extreme masturbation for me, but which is a little tricky when you have a roommate, but those things can be, I guess, walked around. But after a few days after we'd read that book together, Jack Carey, who was a young fellow from McMinnville, showed up in the morning terribly bruised and battered. He showed us a little of it, and he had bruises on his pelvic bones in front and all over his chest and his arms. And what happened? He says, well, Mike got mad at me and beat me up. Well, Mike Butler was a roommate there who was a hockey player. He also played the guitar and sang to entertain people in the evening. He was a charismatic, very focused, powerful young man. And I've always thought what happened was after all that sexual stimulation, Jack Carey got carried away and tried to crawl into bed with Mike Butler. And Mike Butler had the kind of reaction that men used to talk about. Oh, and then that queer said this to me and I sucked him in the mouth. That was a homophobic, common cultural attitude at the time. Well, Jack didn't pursue it. There was no investigation, nothing. But he had been horribly beaten. And he didn't go into any detail about it. He just suppressed it and moved on. Well, after I left Dartmouth and my life went on, at some point I was talking with somebody about how this person was doing and how that person was doing, and they said, oh yeah, Mike Butler. I always thought at least, that he was the guy there that was most likely to succeed in business and in the world. And lo and behold, they told me, well, yeah, Mike Butler, he went up to New York and got a job as a stockbroker, and he was starting out with a fiery career. Then all of a sudden, he'd gotten married, and all of a sudden his wife disappeared from the face of the earth. And they never found her. Never found her. Well, many years later, I was working in Stevenson, Washington, so that would have made it around 1971, which would have been the reunion year for Dartmouth. What is 61 to, we were supposed to graduate in 61, and this would have been 71. That would have only been a 10-year reunion. Mike Butler called me up, and he said, why don't you come to the reunion? I'd love to see you again. And I was, I was so immersed there, and I was still kind of embarrassed that I'd left Dartmouth and hadn't graduated. So I begged off. But we did visit maybe for 10 minutes. And he told me that he was working at an ashram in Oakland, and he'd been there for several years. and he was mowing the lawn and meditating, and that was his life. And I was like, whoa, this is the guy that I thought was going to charm the world and set the world on fire. Now he's mowing the lawn at the ashram. I wonder what happened. Many years later, somewhere around 2005, Jack Carey contacted me. His brother was a lawyer in Portland and had appeared in front of me on a few occasions. And Jack was retired. He'd been somebody that had been involved with printing books for a career, and he wanted me to come to meet with them in McMinnville and have a social gathering. And I kept begging off, and he said he and his brother both really wanted to get together with me and just visit and be friends. The reason I begged off was that, having talked with Mike Butler at the time of our 10-year reunion, I was left with a very uneasy feeling that he may have murdered his wife, knowing that he had the violent temper that he visited on Jack, and that it's quite unusual for somebody's wife to disappear totally. And so I didn't want to get together with these guys, because with my mind, I wouldn't have been able to resist asking Jack some questions about the night when he got beaten, and asking him what he thought about whether Mike Butler might have killed his wife. I just didn't want to go there.